licensing is really important. It's the transfer of technology effectively from the lab or from the innovator to the market, to the consumers. And that you usually do through licensing deals. If you depress the licensing market or you depress the value of that technology, obviously there will be less incentive, less investment dollars available to be put into the next wave of innovations. So it's a significant concern.
Hello, I'm Bruce Berman, the host of Understanding IP Matters, the critically acclaimed podcast series that provides leading innovators and experts a space to share their IP story. Learn firsthand about the strengths and weaknesses of copyrights, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets as they adapt to an AI-driven world. This is our 4th season. Andrei Iancu is one of the leading voices in intellectual property law and innovation policy. From 2017 to 2021, he served as Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. As an attorney, he has represented plaintiffs and defendants in IP matters, including medical devices, genetic testing, therapeutics, TV broadcasting, and video game systems. He is co-founder and co-chairman of the board of the Council for Innovation Promotion, C4IP, and a partner in the Los Angeles office of Sullivan and Cromwell. He holds aeronautical and mechanical engineering degrees. Mr. Iancu has been widely recognized for his achievements and contributions to IP law and policy. He was inducted into the IAM Hall of Fame and has been named one of the 50 most influential people in IP. He has received the IP Champion Award from the Intellectual Property Owners Education Foundation for his extraordinary leadership in advancing and advocating for the value of intellectual property to stimulate the progress of innovation, and the IEEE USA Award for Distinction in Public Service. Andrei, welcome, good morning, and thanks for joining us today. It's hard to sometimes catch you, but we have caught you, and I'm happy you could join us. Where are you speaking from today?
Well, great to be with you, Bruce. I'm in Los Angeles. It's my hometown, although, as you know, I travel quite a bit. I spend quite a bit of time in DC in particular, but also New York. But most of the time, I'm in LA.
Let's get right into it. In the 4 years you've served as USPTO Director, you accomplished perhaps more than any other director before you. What do you see as your most significant achievements?
I came in and from the very beginning, including at my confirmation hearing in the Senate and shortly thereafter, I basically outlined 3 main things I wanted to work on when I was at the PTO. Number one, to give more clarity to the application of Section 101, patentable subject matter eligibility, at least from the PTO perspective. Number 2, to simplify the proceedings at the PTAB and post-grant proceedings to make that process less burdensome and return it to what the original vision was, to make the PTAB be a cheaper, faster alternative to district court litigation. And number 3, to change the dialogue about intellectual property in the United States. Because when I came in, and I was going through this process in 2017, there was so much negativity about patents. It was all about patent trolls and how patent trolls are harming American innovation and all of that. And I wanted to change that dialogue and narrative and focus on the brilliance of our inventors and the importance of intellectual property to the innovation ecosystem. I think we achieved all of that to the extent possible to achieve in 3 years and from only one branch of the administration. We put out the 2019 patent eligibility guidelines, which are still in practice today. And I think they've gone a long way to clarify Section 101 examination at the Patent Office. And the statistics show the significant improvement, a dramatic reduction in the variability of examination as a result of this. We've put in place a robust set of rules for post-grant proceedings so that we minimize the number of repetitive proceedings. Most of those are still in place today. To add a couple more points, another point of, I think, real accomplishment when I was there was the establishment of the National Council for expanding American innovation with the concept of reaching as many inventors across all 50 states in small communities and large communities alike to generate as much innovation as possible across the country. That was a big success. And finally, the fifth thing as a big category was the improvement of the operations of the patent office itself, with lots of technological improvements in IT, the use of artificial intelligence tools, the reduction in pendency for both patent and trademark examination. So sorry, it's not just one thing. I gave you 5 things.
You did a lot. What can you say? Your record speaks for itself. Andrei, there are several bills currently before Congress designed to increase the certainty of issued patents and bring the system back to a somewhat leveler playing field. What do you like or dislike about the bills, and how do you see their chances of passing?
Okay, excellent question. So there are 3 major bills currently pending in this Congress, and we're speaking now in December of 2024. As we know, this Congress is going to come to an end at the beginning of January, and then a new Congress is going to be sworn in. All the pending bills basically get wiped out. If the sponsors want them, they need to reintroduce them. And I expect all 3 will be reintroduced. First one is called PERA, Patent Eligibility Restoration Act. It tries to address Section 101 of the Patent Code, like I mentioned, but now in a legislative fashion, and to overcome, frankly, the mess that's been made as a result of the Supreme Court cases, Alice, Mayo, Myriad, Bilski, which have created this huge confusion in the courts. I think the PTO has dealt with it well, pursuant to the 2019 guidelines, but the guidelines from the Patent Office are obviously not binding on the courts. The courts are still doing their own process, and it's very confusing. So I think the statute would go a long way to fix that.
Do you think the bill will get through at some point?
I don't know. There were hearings on it. It's bipartisan and bicameral, and that gives me some hope. At the same time, industry doesn't seem to have coalesced yet and come to a negotiated solution. And it's really hard for the members to do it, but I really hope they do. Because, Bruce, Section 101 as it exists now was written word for word for the Patent Act of 1793. It was written by Jefferson and Madison, okay? The main section, Section 101, okay, the first substantive section of the Patent Code that defines our 21st century patent system in the United States was written in the 18th century by our founders. It's unbelievable. Congress has not legislated in that area since 1793. And look, the problem is that courts are struggling to fit 21st century technology into an 18th century statute. They can be forgiven for having trouble with this, because the reality is we have modern technologies now like artificial intelligence and software code and biotechnology and the manipulation of DNA. And it's really hard to figure out how all that should fit into the patent system when you're dealing with an 18th century statute. Congress needs to step up and do its job and legislate. It's been 250 years almost.
The founding fathers had a lot of vision, but not that much vision, right?
Were brilliant, but as brilliant as they were, they still did not anticipate DNA, biotechnology, DNA test kits.
Despite, Andrei, a lot of discussion, the patent troll narrative will not go away. It unfavorably disposes investors, policymakers, the public to patent exclusivity. Why do you think this meme has endured the way it has?
Well, it's because it's being pushed very heavily by certain industries with the intended purpose of limiting the strength of American patents. And look, it's an easy narrative. It's a nice catchphrase, patent troll. People immediately can conjure images of green monsters under a bridge. But I think we're not quite where we used to be. It's not the same as it was 8 years ago. I think the narrative is decreased in its potency.
Casting patent licensing in a negative light, there are non-practicing entities and there are less favorable non-practicing entities, those with adhere to bad behavior. But it seems like licensing in general has been thought of less positively. Does that have an impact on innovation?
There's a significant impact on innovation. Licensing is really important. It's the transfer of technology effectively from the lab or from the innovator to the market, to the consumers. And that you usually do through licensing deals. If you depress the licensing market or you depress the value of that technology, obviously there will be less incentive, less investment dollars available to be put into the next wave of innovations. So it's a significant concern if that's what's going to happen.
What some have called efficient patent infringement on the part of tech companies, some tech companies, who have calculated the business advantage for them of not taking a license and engaging in protracted litigation, patent litigation. It's now being called by some predatory infringement. A policy of infringement without licensing on the part of some tech companies may be good in the short run for shareholders, but what does it mean for innovation in the longer run?
Yeah, first of all, I don't like the term efficient infringement, to be honest. It suggests that there is some good to it. You're making it efficient, and efficient is a positive term.
It may be efficient for shareholders, but not even for them.
It's not efficient for them at all. So infringement is theft. Okay? Infringement effectively is taking somebody else's property, in this case, intellectual property, without their approval. Okay? And nobody would use the words of efficient trespass, for example, or efficient theft. So I don't think it's a good or appropriately descriptive term. Predatory infringement is slightly better, but it's still just a pejorative. The reality is that we've come to a place with all the burdens on the enforcement process in the United States that makes it acceptable for companies to steal others' intellectual property. And, when you don't have a viable path to an injunction, for example, to stop that theft, and it takes years and multiple tribunals to get there, and it takes millions of dollars that have to be spent by the property owner to enforce those property rights, and where you, after all that expense and after all those years, the best you can do at the end of the day is not to kick them out of your property, but instead get some damages. When you are in a position like this, when you have a system like this, it dramatically decreases the value of that intellectual property. And therefore, it dramatically decreases the value of innovation and the investment in that innovation. We are in a situation where the system has gotten to be the enforcement system has gotten to be so cumbersome that we are certainly not maximizing the innovation potential of the United States. And in fact, we are depressing it.
It seems like there are a handful of companies determining what is innovative. And if they can't originate or control an invention or a series of inventions, then it's potentially disruptive to their business model. They don't want to acknowledge it. Why should they? It's going to hurt them.
Exactly right. Because again, the enforcement mechanisms are not working as they should, right? And why should they? If there are no laws to stop them from stealing, okay, the best case scenario, the laws in place will result in some monetary payment years down the line, then I suppose the business decision is we'll take the risk, we'll steal the technology, and worst comes to worst, we'll pay some money some years down.
It's like a parking ticket, right? We'll pay the ticket for the violation.
Customers will pay the ticket. It's as if you have a house, okay, and people just, you're living in this house, and then just people one day set up shop, they come into your house and they take the back bedroom, okay, while you're still there, and you can't kick them out. And they say, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Sue me. And then you sue them. And while you're suing them, it takes 5 years and millions of dollars. In the meantime, they get to live with you in that back bedroom for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5 years, nobody kicks them out anyway. Worst comes to worst, they pay the rent they should have paid all along. You can't have a house like that. You're probably going to just move out. You're going to sell the house or get out, leave. It's not nice to live with somebody else in your back bedroom. You're going to leave. You're not going to buy another house. Why would you buy another house if somebody else can set up shop in your bedroom? It's the same thing with intellectual property. And you're not going to innovate anymore, or at least we're talking economies of scale here for the United States. On the margins, there's going to be less investment in these risky new technologies. Look, innovation is risky. Innovation is risky by definition. By definition, it's new, as it should be. And you don't know if it's going to work. And the reality is, 9 out of times, the new stuff doesn't work. But when it works that 10th time, you have to be able to control it and make sufficient profit to cover the rest of those failures as well as the current one.
I always say that a patent is 100% of something, but 99% of the time, that 100% is not worth anything. But when it is, it's really important. It can mean everything. The organization that you co-chair with Dave Kapos, the Council for Innovation Promotion, C4IP, some people may know it as that. And I'll read this, a bipartisan coalition dedicated to promoting strong and effective intellectual property rights that drive innovation, boost economic competitiveness, and improve lives everywhere. What sort of activities is C4IP engaged in?
Yeah, very proud of C4IP. It's bipartisan. I served in a Republican administration. Dave Kapos served in a Democrat administration. We have a board of directors that's, former federal circuit judges appointed by Democrats and Republicans. The whole goal here is to advocate publicly and educate both the members of Congress as well as decision makers in the administration and the public itself about intellectual property and the importance of a stable and strong intellectual property system to our economy. And we do that in a variety of ways. We advocate directly in Congress. We publish a lot of op-eds in mainstream media. We've published, in the New York Post. We've published in Deseret News. For example, we've published in Buffalo News, the Wall Street Journal, and many other places.
What is the main message?
The main message is that intellectual property is absolutely critical and the necessary tool for a robust innovation economy. We want to make sure that people understand the importance of it and that intellectual property rights need to be respected like other property rights. Those are the main messages. We also sponsor academic studies, for example, by independent academicians.
Andrei, generative AI and machine learning have stoked fears about the reliability of copyrighted content. There's a fear that data scraping and fakes will overtake images, music, and editorial content, and that copyright holders will lose control. Do we need more robust AI policy, or can the market sort itself out without further regulation?
Well, Bruce, in the words of Ronald Reagan, the scariest words in the English language are, I am from the government and I'm here to help you. I almost never am in favor of more regulation, okay? Just as a general principle, more regulation on balance is harmful. Now, we have to be obviously careful. Some regulation is always necessary. Government obviously has a role. But we got to be careful, and government needs to act with humility and restraint in the face of the free market and in the face of brand new technologies that are difficult to understand, and let, generally speaking, the market develop unencumbered by overregulation. So with respect to AI in particular, Bruce, I will say that my view in general, at bottom, is that AI is another human tool. It's the latest, most advanced tool that we have come up with, but humans have been coming up with tools for millennia. And the whole point of the modern patent system and intellectual property system is to incentivize and protect the new tools and the development of new tools as they come up. We don't want to restrict that. We want to create more new tools, make them better, more robust, because on balance, all of this stuff has helped humanity over time. So I don't think people should be afraid of AI. They shouldn't be afraid of generative AI. It is different than other tools that have come before it, for sure, in some ways, but all new innovation is different in some ways. And it's a very powerful tool, but it's still a tool. And I am troubled by what I've seen in the past couple of years from the US Patent and Trademark Office in terms of policies, and what I've seen preliminarily from the Copyright Office for copyright policies. I am troubled that they're treating AI tools differently from other tools, and especially differently from other computer tools. And there are many problems with this. Number one, why are you persecuting and trying to hamper this burgeoning new area of technology? Number two, they're doing this and trying to draw these distinctions between AI computers and non-AI computers without really defining even what AI is. It's not so simple. Computers, obviously, by definition, have certain levels of intelligence as it is, and that's been going back decades. Where do you draw this line between regular computing and, quote, AI computing that is going to merit different treatment in the patent office? So the PTO put out these regulations for AI-enabled inventions without defining what AI means. So if you're an inventor or a practitioner, you have to comply with these new regulations for AI, for the use of AI in your patent technologies, without really knowing what the patent office means by AI. It's very troublesome when government tries to regulate carefully, but it is especially troubling when government tries to regulate without first understanding what exactly they're regulating. So I think regulators and the government in general has to be very careful. They have to attend to AI for sure. It's a really important new tool that has lots of ramifications in society. They have to attend to it. But again, with humility and restraint, listen to the industry. Spend a lot of time trying to understand what the experts are telling you before you're hampering this technology.
That's a really interesting response and somewhat controversial. Europe has gone much more to the regulatory side of things. Not everyone agrees, Andrei, with President Trump's approach in many areas, but his experience in copyright and trademark licensing especially is unmatched by any U.S. or foreign head of state and by almost anyone. This is his life, trademarks or was trademarks and licensing, as name license, and also copyright from shows that he's had, TV shows. I understand that he also has a good knowledge of patents as assets. Do you think he will bring this IP experience to his second administration?
Well, in the famous words of Yogi Berra, predictions are very difficult to make, especially about the future. So who knows what's going to happen in the second Trump administration when it comes to intellectual property and all these issues. What I will tell you is that I think inherently believes in property rights. He does have an understanding of intellectual property rights better than most of our other former presidents. He inherently, I believe, understands the importance of intellectual property rights to the economy. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we had what, I'm biased, of course, but I think we had good intellectual property rights policies in the first Trump administration. I don't think it's a coincidence that happened. And look, he is nominated for the Secretary of Commerce in the second administration, Howard Lutnick, who is an inventor himself. So the USPTO is in the Department of Commerce.
I think Lutnick has a few hundred patents that he's named on.
He has lots of patents that he himself is named on as an inventor. So he obviously understands. And again, I just don't think it's a coincidence. I think they understand generally the importance of innovation to the economy. I'll give you another example. J.D. Vance, before he was a senator, he was in the venture capital business. And one of the main jobs he had was to lead a venture capital fund called Rise of the Rest, which was to invest in startups that come from underrepresented areas. It's absolutely remarkable that something like 75% of venture capital dollars go to 3 states: California, New York, and Massachusetts. It's absolutely remarkable. And then 47 states have to scramble for the remaining 25% of VC dollars. So J.D. Vance understood a long time ago that if you really want to spur American innovation and have the whole country contribute to our technological growth and economic growth, you need these opportunities to be presented to people in all 50 states. They just inherently, I think, they understand the importance of all these issues. Now, how that is going to develop into specific concrete policies in the second Trump administration, I don't know. But I will definitely watch with interest.
We're running short on time. We like to ask guests, Andrei, what was the first encounter with IP rights that you had? And was your response positive in general, negative, or maybe neutral?
Yeah, it was not in engineering school, but so I have a bachelor's in aerospace engineering and a master's degree in mechanical engineering. And then after that, I worked for a number of years at Hughes Aircraft. And while I was an engineer at Hughes Aircraft, we came up with some great new technology for a new type of satellite reflector. I was very young, but it was really cool new stuff. And I did go to the law office over there and talk to them about what do we do with this IP? Do we patent it? Do we keep it as a trade secret, et cetera, et cetera? So that was my first interaction. I do have to say that that interaction while I was an engineer, I loved it, and that did at least put the seed in my mind that maybe I should go into that space.
What did you like about it?
It was just so. First of all, the people I interacted with, the conversation was just very interesting, and ultimately, what I loved was the interaction of technology with the law. Like that combination and the discussion surrounding that juxtaposition, I thought it was very interesting.
Codifying new ideas is really a challenge. 2 thoughts you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, before the 2 thoughts, I do want to complete something we started at the very beginning, and we talked about the bills.
Right.
I did want to mention that there are 3 major bills. I mentioned one already, the PIRA on eligibility. The second one is Prevail, that it fixes a number of loopholes in the post-grant proceeding process, IPRs and PGRs. And I think it would go a long way to make that process what it was originally meant to be and make the whole enforcement process much more efficient between litigation and in court and post-grant proceedings at the PTO. So I think, and that bill had the markup in the Senate and it passed the committee. So it's one step ahead of all the other bills. The third bill is called Restore. The Restore Act is meant to create a rebuttable presumption that the injunctions should be entered by the court if there's a finding of patent infringement. We passed a bill like that in December of 2020 as part of the Trademark Modernization Act. So we have a statute like that for trademarks. And we really should have one like that for patents, because ultimately patents are exclusionary rights. And without the right to exclude, it's very difficult to enforce exclusionary rights. There was a hearing just this week on that bill, and we'll see where it goes. All three of these bills are bipartisan and bicameral, so that's a very good sign. We'll see if they get reintroduced in the next Congress and what they do with it.
Two thoughts about what we should recall about this conversation.
Intellectual property rights in a free market economy are absolutely critical to ensuring that we have a robust innovation system. In a free market economy where the centralized government does not dictate where our investment dollars go, and we shouldn't ever go into that direction, we want to maintain a robust free market system. But in this system, the only way that has ever worked to incentivize and protect innovation and investment in that innovation is with a robust system of intellectual property rights. We have to begin there, treat those rights as property rights, and everything will grow from there. And I think, we can unleash a tremendous amount of American innovation over the ensuing years if we respect a robust intellectual property system.
I agree with you totally. As our system in the last 8 or 10 years has weakened or become less certain, China and its system has come up as it's modeled on our system. They have still far to go, but they have a much more respectable IP system
than they used to have. Correct. We've been going in opposite directions. They have been improving and strengthening their system. They have a long way to go for sure, but they have definitely been on the improvement path, on the strengthening path. For example, injunctions are almost routine there when there's a finding of infringement. Whereas here in the United States, for the past 2 decades, with some exceptions, we've been on the path of weakening our intellectual property system. And that puts us at a tremendous disadvantage. Because in addition to the IP system, keep in mind that the Chinese have a centralized economy with everything being dictated by the Chinese Communist Party that's ruling the country. And they are capable of directing significant funds from the central government towards specific new innovations if that's what they want. We don't have that here. We don't want that here. We cannot out-Chinese the Chinese, okay? we have and we want a free market system. We don't want the central government to dictate where our investment dollars should go.
With rule of law. We want rule of law also.
We want the rule of law. And the only way we can achieve significant investment at scale in these risky technologies of the future is with a robust system of laws, the rule of law, as you say. And that's the IP system in this context.
Thank you, Andrei. We're out of time, but this has been great. We'll have to have you back on again later in the year, later in 25, after there's a new director and we can figure a few more things out.
Thank you, Bruce. Happy to come back at any time.
Understanding IP Matters is brought to you by the nonprofit Center for Intellectual Property Understanding with the generous support of its partners and sponsors. Gain access to all 4 seasons by subscribing for free on your favorite platform or email us at explore.understandingip.org. Content conveyed is for informational purposes only and does not represent the views of CIPU or its affiliates. This episode was produced by Jack Shields for Wild Creek Studios. Thank you for listening.